Sometimes I'll watch videos that lead me down rabbit holes. Something they'll say will click with something I'm thinking at that time, and I'll just have to go down a research rabbit hole. And so Ancient Tartarian Wisdom, John Levy, one of his recent videos, he talked about a lot of different, in brief, he talked about a lot of different spiritual paths and practices that were described as being ancient Chinese but could very well be ancient Tartarian or Tibetan, and maybe have existed since the dawn of time or been discovered thousands of years ago. Who knows? But he introduced me to them, and I had to do more research because one thing he mentioned was kind of a spiritual practice of art and drawing mystical beasts and receiving positive benefit from it throughout life's practice. And so I had to dive more into that. I couldn't find too much on Fu Jiao, but I ended up finding the same chapter that John Levy was, I believe, talking about in one of the books he mentioned. And he mentions a lot of the stuff in brief, so I recommend his video as well. His videos are always awesome. But I wanted to dive a little further in and discover a little more about some of these spiritual practices that are very ancient, that used to be so obvious to humanity, that people spent so much time discovering, so much time journeying inward and through medicines and exploring nature and finding these connections, these harmonious balances that exist, and these magical properties that exist within us all that lay dormant if we don't use them. And if we ignore them, they die out, they get forgotten. And other people can take advantage of us and convince us that these once beautiful paths are now this method, which actually takes us down and hurts us. So it's really important to know these practices so you can stay mentally, physically, and spiritually strong and do everything you can to protect yourself against the world that is always trying to kill you and make your life miserable. When life is so perfect, such a miracle, especially when you add on all of these powers that we have that are just waiting to be rediscovered in each of us. So you've probably noticed some of them. You may have some subtle hints at some that you do in your daily life, but here's a nice little comprehensive list with some good descriptions. So I hope you all enjoy it. Check out this book further, but here's one great chapter. The master then continued, "Kind Prince, the holistic or integral system of knowledge of the ancient sages is an integration of science, art, and personal spiritual development. The practice of these methods employs the laws of nature in the subtle realm and involves the participation of body, mind, and spirit as an integral whole. I will mention a few of the subjects that comprise this system. For instance, there are 1. The holistic system of healing, referred to as Yi Yao. Yi means healing, while Yao means seeking, preparing, and using medicinal materials. This science is a complete system of diagnosis, acupuncture, herbology, therapeutic diet, and other healing techniques. The ancient developed ones, with their developed mental and spiritual faculties, discovered the relationship between nature and the human body, which enabled them to utilize medicinal plants. They were also able to recognize certain points on the surface of the body, which are connected to the internal organs and specific body systems, and which become tender when a person is ill. When the illness goes away, so does the tenderness. They developed advanced techniques of manipulating these points to influence the internal organs and systems. Through their deep insight, the ancient sages also discovered that diagnosis could be made by observing a person's aura, his eyes and ears, tongue, pulse waves, voice, and movement, as well as the specific symptoms of disease. The ability to correctly diagnose depends on the healer's personal achievement through training, spiritual self-cultivation, and intuitional error-free response. 2. The holistic system of how to live a natural, healthy life. Systems of healing are only necessary when people become sick. The knowledge of healthy living is more important and was thus the core of cultural development in ancient China, Tartaria, before social competition brought about the downfall of society. Natural energy has cycles. Likewise, there are natural stages or cycles of human life. The importance of harmony between people and nature was fully recognized by the ancient wise ones, and the natural culture that they helped develop contained abundant knowledge in the art of human life. The art of natural living led to the art of longevity, which includes breathing techniques, physical energy, conducting exercises, important energy points of the body, diet, and the use of herbal supplements, the spiritual practice of internal peace, and many other useful methods. 4. Even with all of these good methods, one cannot neglect the spiritual art for self-regulation, especially for the purpose of becoming attuned to the cycles of universal energy rotation through avoiding or accepting specific energy rays in daily life, referred to as shu ser, or self-cultivation and life discipline. This facilitates the complete spiritualization of one's being. 5. To know specific days of the solar cycle for gathering pure life energy of nature is the spiritual art referred to as Bigu, which is fasting to refill higher energy in order to refine one's life and uplift one's spirit. It is not a negative practice of avoiding mortal food, but a way of deriving immortal essence from nature at certain points in the cyclic movement of different stars when they are in harmonized positions. To assist in this, the use of herbal supplements for refining and harmonizing the body, mind, and spirit was developed. It is referred to as fu air, or reinforcing energy through eating and drinking by using herbs. 6. Then, at an easily attainable level, there is a holistic life art of guiding one's physical energy through a combination of willpower and physical exercises in order to gain mastery of the body, breath, internal organs, mind, and life and death. The fundamental techniques include the Yellow Emperor's energy guidance, Tai Chi Chuan, the 8 treasures, and related methods of meditation. This science is referred to as Tao In, or inducing and guiding energy flows within the individual body. 7. The life art of gathering pure, high natural energy in order to reform and refine one's being with foods and herbs, referred to as Fu Qi, or the input of vital natural energy, is a highly helpful approach. 8. For the purpose of attaining a higher spiritual life, there is the effective art of transforming spiritual essence through keeping one's thought in accord with the divine source. This is referred to as Chuan Qi, or deeply linking with divine thought for inner transformation. 9. The correct way of internal alchemy is the immortal art of the mystical conception of a unified spiritual life of wholeness through specific breathing and mental techniques. This method is referred to as Tai Si, or womb breathing, to revitalize the body and immortalize the inner being. Number 10. There were also very powerful single cultivations, such as the spiritual art of embracing transcendental universal oneness in order to nourish one's mystical pearl and accomplish the mystical conception referred to as Sao Yi, or emerging into universal oneness through spiritual practice. 11. Single external practice is not more effective than uniting both the inner and the outer being. The spiritual art of inner transformation through mystical visualization, maintaining the thought of the universal realm, can also produce practical, positive help for one's life. 12. One needs to be careful about the contact one has in life. The spiritual art of purifying one's energy through ascetic practice has the purpose of cleansing one's worldly contamination and altering one's destiny. It is referred to as Jai Xing, or spiritual discipline and prohibition. Doing this periodically is beneficial. 13. To further enhance one's spiritual capability, there is the spiritual art of drawing mystical pictures as a display of power and of writing talismans, and reciting powerful sounds and spiritual invocations in order to evoke a response from the subtle realm of the multi-leveled universe. These methods are used to perform exorcism, redeem souls, and subtly control rain, wind, mist, and snow. 14. For spiritual education, the spiritual practice of intuitional development through studying the classical scriptures and through direct training from a master's dialogue and contact enables one to dissolve the self and connect with the great whole. It also helps one to develop insight into all spiritual functions of the multi-universe and to harmonize with them. 15. The delicate art of sublimating and refining personal energy for the purpose of revitalization and rejuvenation, to accomplish the integration of both sides of different souls of an individual. 2 schools developed. One way is working to achieve immortality through internal efforts. This is the science referred to as Nai Dan, or the inner immortal medicine. The holistic science of external alchemy for the refinement of golden immortal elixir through the use of rare and undecaying materials. This science is referred to as Wai Dan, or external immortal medicine, which has brought forth the development of modern chemistry and further advances in alchemy. The other way is to obtain the golden immortal elixir through single or dual cultivation. This science is also referred to as Nai Dan, or the inner immortal medicine, which can fortify a person's soul if correctly guided. Usually people are taught only the holistic science of sexual education for the purpose of enhancing one's health and enjoyment and for balancing one's emotions, referred to as Fang Jung, or the healthy way of the inner room. This is at a different level than what I have described as internal medicine. What is popularly known as Tantra originated from this practice. It is not a secret, but an education. 16. The system of foreknowledge of an individual's life development uses the 5 elementary phases in the Big Dipper. Its value is to know one's life potential in order to avoid wasted struggles. The ancient sages also observed that outward physical manifestations of a person's face, bone structure, palms, and voice revealed corresponding inner attitudes, and that one's destiny could be seen in those corresponding energy patterns. The natural and subtle influences on an individual's life could be predicted by employing the system of the 5 subtle phases of energy, which occur in regular patterns in time and space. 17. The system of knowledge about the influence of subtle universal energy rays on specific geographic locations, referred to as feng shui or geomancy, originated when ancient developed ones needed to locate a safe spot for building houses, towns, etc. Different physical locations on Earth have different energy rays and are thus beneficial for different kinds of use or structures. The ability to discern these different rays and their various potencies and to understand how they can support various purposes was greatly valued. Less developed practitioners may not truly know these things by simply observing the operation of the 5 subtle phases of energy in nature. It is easy to fall prey to superstition. One needs to learn correctly. 18. The pursuit of foreknowledge for specific purposes by arranging and observing the subtle alternations of yin and yang was revealed in a system called the I Ching, or the Book of Changes, the divination method. They discovered that by throwing coins, seeds, or yarrow sticks in a prescribed manner, one could arrive at a specific arrangement of yin and yang, which would comment on a question asked. In this way, one could determine the consequences of particular events expressed in a symbolic picture. By observing the balance of yin and yang changes, good decisions could be made regarding military action or the events of daily life. The purpose of practicing the I Ching is to learn the balance of movement without following one's impulses toward an extreme and without becoming intellectually assertive. This is a good system for training people to make decisions that are harmonious with the apparent and latent aspects of any situation and to consider the short and long-term effects of their actions. Practically speaking, no one should be rigid about the guidance they receive from the I Ching, but should value instead the philosophy of balance in individual life as well as great events. In order to avoid making mistakes and misjudging people, one can learn the system of natural energy management and apply it to individual affairs or to national or global matters. This is referred to as Liao Yen and Qi Men, the 6 primal yang water energy system, and the mystical gates system. These can be positive ways to employ a very subtle arrangement of energy in order to know or change a situation of weakness or dominance in any action or non-action. This enables people to protect themselves and their lands from invaders and to avoid becoming ruthless attackers. Kind Prince, for beginners, the common foundation of all effective practices is to study the I Ching. This could be a great means of probing both the substantial and insubstantial spheres of life. It is an excellent training process for locating the balance point between a potential conflict between any 2 sides. It also develops one's ability to handle practical affairs and fosters the evolution of one's mind and spirit. I think the positive value of the I Ching is still educational, especially for the complicated life activities of future generations. However, anything concerning a normal, healthy life is the subject of these holistic sciences. They are all instruments for attaining the universal way, and all instruments of the universal way exist to serve the wholeness of one universal life. And so this stuff is remarkable. So it's really amazing that all of these things, which were guaranteed to be commonplace, they were discoveries of humanity in the past, of Tibetans, of China, Tartaria, all these different things, all these different people probably around the world came to these realizations naturally because they're things that can be discovered from just observing Earth. Like I said before, it's sometimes your body and your mind just do things that are, they're just inherent in us, and we don't really know where they come from. And they're all based on these different things, generations and generations of our DNA knowing these magical aspects of nature and humanity, and then gradually getting them weeded out of our realities, like through culture and all this other nonsense that's been happening over the past hundreds of years. All these different distractions that take people away from this purity and this magic that we are all surrounded by at all times. You know, there's too many people trying to capitalize on it. They talk about the herbal medicines, boom, that immediately went from alchemy and chemistry in a good positive light to how can we kill the humanity? How can we create more problems for them? How can we give them a temporary cure that actually harms them more and makes them come back for more profit? So that has changed substantially. All of these have. Drawing mystical beasts, people inevitably started drawing really like satanic things. The symbols, those things are found all over pop culture, whether they're hidden or open. Realize they're there and they're visually, and these people, again, that are in power, use these methods against the population. They know what can create a positive life experience, positive emotions, positive everything, positive health, spiritual health, everything. And they do everything they can to block it and reverse it and make cultural norms become things that are actually detrimental to the human spirit and the world and nature, instead of being good for them and uniting with them, like this ancient Chinese, Tartarian, Tibetan technology of really understanding the world. And so, you know, my method is through art. Everybody has their methods, but, you know, I recommend like trying to incorporate as many of these as possible. There are a lot of these that I personally do and have kind of developed over time, and I'm sure you all do as well. So feel free to share any of your comments in the below, and let me know what you all think of this. It is the book. The rest of the book is pretty interesting. There's a lot more to see. The I Ching is an excellent divination method, kind of similar to the tarot. I have my own method where if I'm torn between two different decisions, I flip something that is no way related to money. It has to be related to the situation, and I flip it, and it's never led me astray. And I've been using this method for about 15, 20 years. I love synchronicity. I love all that stuff. And I believe in all this magic, and I want to help us take the world back to a state where we understand the true workings of this world that we are in, and we realize how great it is, how great it can be, and how we can harmonize it to become the best and healthiest possible humans, mind, body, and soul. Bless you all.